Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the regular scheduled Tabortown Council meeting for October 24th, 2022. Before we get on the actual meeting agenda for the regular council meeting, we have an organizational meeting to deal with. So, thank you, Councilor Beckering. I will call that meeting to order and ask for the adoption of the agenda as presented. Councilor Beckering?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Also move.
Motion on the table. All in favor? Carried now. And just for the record, Councilor Bruin is unable to attend today's meeting. All right, so moving on to boards, committees, and commissions. Item 3.1, council participation in boards, committees, and commissions. Mr. Thibault?
Council, just a housekeeping note that the Municipal Government Act requires us to go through these organizational meetings once a year. I think it's no later than the third week of October. And there was one addition noted in the justification section to the MGA. I think it was in around May. And I'll quickly read through it. So MGA section 154 bracket 3 has been amended to state the chief elected official, mayor, is no longer automatically a member of all council committees and all bodies to which council has the right to appoint members ex officio. The chief elected official must be appointed to these committees and bodies in the same manner as other members. And in the chief elected official's personal name, should council choose to do so. So that was just an update that I thought I'd point out that was mentioned in the MJ.
All right, thank you. Any questions or comments attached to that information? None whatsoever? All right, thank you. All right, then moving on to item 3.1, I believe there are several boards and committees that are attached to that. So, Councillor Firth, would you be able to take care of that?
Certainly, Mr. Mayor. I move that council appoints the same elected officials to the same boards, committees, and commissions as was appointed at council's October 25th, 2021 organizational meeting until the end of the 2023 organizational meeting.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. And item 3.2, requested council appointments. Councillor Firth, you also able to take care of that?
Certainly. So I would move that council appoints the same elected officials to the same boards, committees, and commissions as was appointed at council's October 25th, 2021 organizational meeting until the end of the 2023 organizational meeting.
Thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Moving on to item 3.3, ad hoc committees. Councillor Rudd, you able to take care of that requirements?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes. Make a motion that council appoints the individuals named to ad hoc committees as constituted on the list, with the exception of the South Grow Regional Initiative. Such appointments to run until the 2023 council organizational meeting.
All right, thank you. Just for clarification, I believe we have to separate the South Grow one. That is a change, right, Mr. Thibault?
Yeah,
That is a change, yes, and just
To indicate.
another point. The list that's up there is actually blank, so we would want to be. I'm thinking you're referring to the 2021 organizational list in your motion.
The list I have is dated March 28th, 2022.
Okay, so basically there's nine appointments there that are as is. Nothing's changing. It's the one that's changing on the South Grow. So again, that South Grow needs to be a separate. The 1 to 9 items can be all inclusive. So I guess just a slight adjustment on those 1 to 9 items, and then the standalone for the change with South Grow appointment. So just a slight adjustment. Mr. Thibault, can you just help them out through that actual format?
Yeah, so items 1 through 3 will be as per the 2021 organizational meeting, as will items 5 through 9, 5 through 10. So those are the ones that will stay the same. Items 1 through 3 and items 5 through 10. Item 4 will be a separate, and then 11 and 12 will also be separate motions.
So 4, 11, and 12 are separate motions. So as was stated, so Councilor Rudd, you okay with adjusting that motion accordingly?
I accept, yes.
All right. Actually, that does have to be by way of either yourself changing or another councilor to suggest the actual wording. Councilor Sorensen?
I would suggest a friendly amendment, Chair, as per stipulated, 1 through 3, and then I believe it's 5 through 10, remaining the same as the 2021
All right.
organizational.
I believe that's got it covered, Mr. Tebow. Yes, thank you. All right. Friendly amendment motion on the table. Councilor Reddy, accept that as well? Thank
Yes,
you.
I accept, yes.
All right. Motion on the table. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. And the standalones related to the South Grow would be next. Councilor Rudd?
I'll make a motion, Mr. Mayor, that the South Grow alternate appointment be Joanne Sorensen, Councillor Joanne Sorensen, to be the alternate on that committee until the 2023 council organizational meeting.
All right. Thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. And 2 other standalones, individual motions. Councilor Rudd? Ad hoc committee as well.
Yes, for the SACA committee, do we have a name suggested for that, Mr. Mayor?
I believe we do. Mr. Tebow did say that, and I don't recall that off the top. Do you have that actual wording for the letters analogy?
I don't know that we did one.
Right. So we have, the official letter is actually not in here, it was in the previous council meeting, but we have the stipulations under 1, 2, and 3. There was no name put forward. That was for council to discuss and decide if we wanted to have someone on this committee or not. But items 1 to 3 are explaining a little bit about what the committee is for in their times.
Okay, I think all Councilor Rudd was looking for is it stands for Southern Alberta. Is that Candamar? Canadier.
Alberta Canadiers.
Sorry, I can't see that far. Canadier. All right, okay. So that's all you're looking for to confirm?
Yes,
Yes.
we would need a name to make the appointment if
Yes,
council's in favor of making the appointment.
That's right.
to
So
that
that's
committee.
not clarified yet, so it's a brief discussion. I leave it open to council
Yeah.
for comments.
Oh, Mr. Mayor,
Councilor Rudd, yes.
I have sat on that committee in the past, so maybe I might just put my name forward
All right.
to attend.
Councilor Becker?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Councilor Rudd, because I noticed that the meetings will be in Zoom, and I detest Zooms. Thank you.
Don't we all? All right, thank you for stepping up on that, Councilor Rudd, appreciate that. So with that.
With that, make the motion, Mr. Mayor, that Councilor Rudd be appointed to the SACA, Southern Alberta Canadiers Association Committee, ad hoc committee, until the next organizational meeting in 2023.
All right, thank you. Just a clarification, can Councilor Rudd appoint himself, or do we need an actual? Just, I don't know that's come up before, just to be sure.
I
Okay.
think he can, as long as everyone else.
We're all good with it, yeah, there's not an issue. Okay, just semantics, I guess. Okay, motion on the table, any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously, thank you. And the item number 12, individual motion. Councilor Rudd also, please.
Yes, so that requires some discussion. The SRSDC is an acronym for, Mr. Tebow, the South Regional Stormwater Drainage Committee.
Okay, and I guess I can add a little bit to that. I believe, Councilor Becker, you sat on that for some time also? You did not? Councilor Becker?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Long time ago.
Okay, all right, and I did under invite, I believe through Mr. Shearer, actually. Does that sound familiar? So it's a good committee. It's Mr. Shear was very good for keeping me up to speed on that when I was new to that, and interesting actual committee to be part of. So, Mr. Tebow.
I thought I'd provide just a little bit of background. We did find something that happened, a resolution in 2013. This committee's been around for quite some time. It probably fell off council's radar due to inactivity. But Mr. Shear and myself have been attending the meetings. They seem to be ramping up a little bit more. So this is the Horsefly project, sort of a three-phase spillway project, and we would want to have some council
All right.
representation, I think.
Makes good sense. Good, thank you. Councillor Sargent?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was just wondering what the commitment level is for this committee.
You know what? I'm just trying to remember. Mr. Shear, you're more up on that than me. It's
So at the last committee meeting, they were actually saying they wanted to go to quarterly meetings, I believe. So that would be the commitment.
okay. You know what? And unless anybody else is wanting to jump on board, I don't mind going back on that one if unless somebody else wants something new. But it is a good committee for sure. Either one. Councillor Beckering.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll move the council appoints Mayor Prokop to the South Region Stormwater Drainage Committee until the 2023 council organizational meetings.
All right. Thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. And on to item 4.1, appointment of deputy mayors. Councillor Firth, can you look after that, please?
Certainly. I move that council approves the appointment of deputy mayors for an 8-month term as follows, 1 through 5.
Right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Mr. Tebow, any immediate inquiries related to this particular meeting?
There is none.
All right, thank you. I just require a motion to close the meeting, please. Councillor Beckering.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Move to close.
Motion on the table. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Back to our main agenda, our regular scheduled Tabortown Council meeting. We'll call that meeting to order and ask for the adoption of the agenda as presented, please. Councillor McLean.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that we adopt the agenda as presented.
Motion on the table. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. No public hearings. Adoption of the minutes, item 4.1, minutes of special council meeting, October 5th, 2022. Mr. Tebow.
So in front of council, the special meeting minutes, this was where all the community groups came forward and we had our financial discussions with them for your consideration.
All right, thank you. Any questions arising? Councillor Firth?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that council adopts the minutes of the special meeting of council held on October 5th, 2022 as presented.
All right, thank you. Councillor Rudd, you also had a question?
No, I was prepared to
Okay.
make a motion.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 4.2, minutes of regular meeting of council, October 11th, 2022. Mr. Tebow.
Again, just regular meeting minutes in front of you, nothing special to report on this one.
Thank you. Councillor Sorensen?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just closed session, item 4 was actually a motion that I made, not Councillor Bruin. Let's see if I know. Resolution 333-2022.
Sorry, there's an inaccuracy there, you're saying?
Yeah, it was actually my motion, not
Oh, I see.
Councillor
Oh, okay,
Bruin's,
all right.
just to reflect the accuracy.
All right. So can we ask for that motion to be changed as amended? Minutes regular council meeting, October 11th, 2022. Councillor Sorensen?
So I just would make a motion to accept the minutes for that meeting as amended.
Thank you. Motion on the table. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. All right. Business arrangement minutes. There are none. Bylaws. Item 6.1, proposed fee bylaw 18-2022. Mr. Tebow.
So administration is recommending that we just do a first reading of this particular fee bylaw.
All right. Thank you. Any questions arising? Councillor Sorensen.
I just noted the fee for small businesses, and I was wondering if there's an interest to break out the fees. Let me see if I can find my notes. To a home office in comparison to customers coming to the home. If there should be a separate fee.
All right, Mr. Tebow?
Given this is first reading, first reading, council can have that discussion and administration can make that amendment.
Right, so, valid point. We can certainly bring that back for another meeting with that adjustment, unless there's any other suggestion or discussion required or anything else in that matter.
It's on page 15 of 32. So it looks like it's just a flat fee right now, or am I reading it wrong?
Would you like to fashion a motion in that regard for some further direction for administration, Councillor Sorensen?
Well, I was wondering if there's interest in doing that from council members before I make a motion.
Yeah, as I said, I think it's a valid point. I think that's not a bad idea personally, but certainly anyone else can chime in. Councillor Sorensen?
Yeah, I guess I'll make a motion to break or separate and make a fee of the home office of $150 and then a fee of $175 for customers coming to the house.
All right, thank you. Now, just to clarify, you're looking to add the original motion plus those changes, correct? Does that make it easier? Mr. Tebow?
Yeah, you can make the original motion with the adjustments, the add.
Right.
For administration.
So just the original motion with what you just stated as a motion, Councillor Sorensen. So if you'd like to do that and add those other 2 points, that would be great.
Okay, so I'd like to make that motion.
All right, thank you.
Sorry.
That's all right. All right, Councillor Firth?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just had a question for Councillor Sorensen. What was the rationale behind your motion for increasing the fee?
I believe there's been talk over the last few months of there actually being a reason why we're charging a certain amount for people with home businesses, and specific to just if it's in their home and they're just doing bookkeeping in comparison to actually having customers travel to their home. So I just feel that there should be maybe a distinguished different fee for that.
All right, so just for administration purposes, I think we need to clarify exactly the original motion plus the two, so hate to have you do that again, Councillor Sorensen, but I believe we need the original plus your 2 points, and that will cover all the bases.
Okay, I don't remember my original motion, but maybe it's perhaps to, for administration to investigate the fees for home office in comparison to customers actually coming and traveling to their home.
Okay, so just to, sorry, Councillor Sorensen, but to confirm, you're looking to withdraw your original motion and go with the motion you've just stated.
Sure.
All right.
Yes.
Okay. All right. We do have a motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Chair unanimously. Thank you. Mr. Tebow?
So for administration, we are, from what we just heard, we believe that there was not a first reading given tonight, just the motion.
That's correct.
To send us
I believe
back.
that's the standard understanding, right?
Okay.
Councillor Beckering?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That's not quite correct, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, what did I miss?
You can give first reading to a fee bylaw, or any bylaw for that matter, even with an inclusion, as suggested by Councilor Sorensen. However, traditionally and historically, first reading usually is a matter of getting onto the public sphere, not a discussion what should be in and not in the motion or in the bylaw. So the motion by Councilor Sorensen actually was necessary, Mr. Mayor.
Wasn't necessary.
No. But it's okay.
Okay. Mr. Tebow? All right, thank you.
Sorry, what I was pointing out is that I don't believe the motion suggested that we give first reading. There was just a, am I correct in suggesting that?
I don't have first reading recorded. as being made by motion.
Right, all right, thank you. Counselor Firth?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would be willing to make that motion.
All right,
I move the council gives first reading to fee bylaw 18-2022.
right, thank you. Motion on the table. All in favor? Carried unanimously, thank you. On to action item 7.1, Young Emerging Leader Award. Mr. Tebow.
So we have the young emerging leader here, Mr. John Browning, if you wanted to come forward, and Mr. Mayor will present.
All right, thank you.
Seriously? Now you will. Councilors don't need to move. You're good. Okay, good.
All right. On to item 7.2, Gateway Signage Project Request for Information Purposes. Mr. Tebow.
This is coming forward based on a request in the standing item list for council's consideration. This was the signs that enter each end of town of Tabor.
All right, thank you. Any questions arising? Councilor Beckering.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Tebow, the recommendation that provided by administration, what does that really mean?
If I were to translate that recommendation, I think that administration wasn't suggesting that we look at that expense for the adjustment of the signs.
All right, thank you. So I think the basic suggestion was the actual authenticity of the paint job was not accurate. Is that the bottom line, Mr. Tebow?
I think as what came in by way of communication, I don't think it came direct to administration, it came to some council members. My understanding was someone was hoping that it might have a green stock instead of the current sort of black looking.
Right, thank you. Councilor Rudd?
Yeah, I don't support spending the money either. I support the original motion of investigating it and having a look at it. So I'd be prepared to make this motion today that council accept the Gateway Signage Project. The council receives for information as presented by the Gateway Signage Project in answering to the standing item 289/2022.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Councilor Firth?
I was just going to speak in favor of that motion, but I'm not in support of spending an extra $30,000. I think the signs look great as they are.
All right, thank you. We do have a motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Pardon me. You weren't in favor? Sorry, I missed that. All right. One opposed? Opposed? Thank you. Carried. All right, on to item 7.3, 2023 operating budget discussion. Mr. Tebow.
So at this time of year, we go through the operating budget. Administration will come up and present each area's operational requests and reasoning for that requests. So open dialogue is encouraged for tonight's meeting, and no real motion has been recommended. It'll be dependent on what you think you hear and you see from each area.
All right, thank you. Mr. Orwell.
Just to reinforce what the CEO has just mentioned there, I just want to highlight a few areas before the team comes in. I know this is going to be a very long stretch because it kicks off our budget for 2023. Now, you do realize that each budget year presents different challenges, and this particular year we are looking at some changing economic conditions and very volatile resource prices. So this makes it very difficult to precisely, predict the revenue area, but we try our level best. Now, before the team comes in, I just want to highlight a few areas that are already on our background there. Number one, all contracted services regarding building maintenance and renovations have been moved from various departments to the property management, and that is part of the centralization plan. So when they come up, that part will come up and you'll understand why it was being centralized. And then number two, one other area that I would like to highlight is that in this particular budget, as they come up, some new positions have been created by various departments, and they'll be discussed at length by departmental heads. The other thing I would like to highlight is I've left the council discretionary fund as is, that is 25K, unless maybe council wants to increase or decrease. Now, again, administration has also incorporated the council-approved increases for the community-related organizations, if you recall our special meeting that we had last time. So all those increases have already been included in this particular budget. Now, with that, we can now methodically start, and I think the way it's been arranged, we'll start with the major areas, that is the big budgeted items. And in your package, I also brought in some graphs. Now, those particular graphs just gives you the trend over the last 10 years. But what they are going to explain to you today is year over year, that is 22-23 budget variance. But of course, what you have in there, we also have those, if you can bring for me the top graph. That graph is very important because those are the 4 top departments, and I think we're going to go in that order, and you can see the trend there. So what they're going to explain to you now is just the budget year over year, that is 23 and 22, but at least it also gives you the trend line for the last 10 years. And I think that is also very important there. Now with that, I think somebody's already seated waiting. We start with utilities. Proceed.
Councillor Rudd.
Yeah, before John sits down, just a question. As the contracted services are all being centralized and moved in, do we have a manager in place for that? Just concerned about the management of that. Now that it's all centralized, all the maintenance budgets and the building maintenance budgets are all in one place now. Who is going to be coordinating, making sure that repairs get done, and the guy just put his hand up and said he is going to do it.
Okay.
We will have a discussion with that, with council.
Okay.
On to where we should be going.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr.
Mr.
Orwell.
Scheer.
For the utilities, naturally utilities broke into a couple different branches. There's treatment and distribution and collection. They go hand in hand. You have a water treatment facility, 2 sewage treatment facilities, plus the town looks after Atlantic's wastewater treatment facility. Within the potable water distribution system, many kilometers of line, of pipeline, vaults and valves, Same with the sanitary collection, many manholes, pump station valves, all of that is looked after by our utility staff. So we've broken out into various utility budgets. The first is stormwater. This budget has increasingly gone down and down and down. We've taken from it and taken from it. And we've basically gone after more and more capitalized projects, like the wetlands project is part of that. That's a huge facility. So within this stormwater budget, you can see it's not a major increase. It's only an increase of just over $11,000. The increase is going to be to the wetlands project for maintenance, but we managed to lower some of our other costs to offset the majority of that. So that's the only increase in the stormwater budget. Any questions on that?
Councillor Sorensen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's probably one of the only budgets that the materials has actually gone down.
Yes.
So I was wondering how you predicted that.
As we do more and more work, and then we'll get to this eventually, we're recommending another person so we can help with a bunch of the stormwater maintenance. So that there is going to be costs, it's just not really in that budget, it's in other budgets. So maintenance is huge for stormwater. You see we cut the ditches, we maintain the lines, and it has not slowed down. And like I said, we've done a lot of projects through capital budget, which has helped us to get funding for major projects, which has improved our stormwater system in the town of Dare.
Can I just do a follow-up?
Sure, you
please?
bet.
So do you, and maybe I'm jumping the gun, but do you propose a increase in personnel also for this department?
It all ties into one, yes.
Into one.
See,
Okay.
in roads and walks, we have a crew that really, they're various in other various departments. It's in stormwater, it's in D&C, it's in roads and walks and maintenance, it's in many different departments. And that's why it's so important that we cross-train. We can't just have specific positions for departments. We have to have employees that are knowledgeable in many different departments. So that's how we're going to move forward with this.
All right, thank you. Any other questions for Mr. Scheer on that?
Water, we'll move on to that
Okay.
one. You can see the big one here is salaries. When we signed our negotiations with Atlantic, we had a couple of employees that were just designated to Atlantic, but there again, we like cross-training and everything else. So they were 100% allocation just to wastewater. So what we've done, we're cross-training them, so they're going to be reallocated in water and stormwater. So you'll see water elevated a bit because of that percentage is just reallocated. The contracted general services, everybody's noticed we cleaned out the north raw water cell. We did a lot of that work. So we're going to see an additional cost next year of that. You know, somewhere around the $65,000 range. That's where that contracted services comes in place. Raw water from TID or St. Mary's has not gone down. It's gone up and up and up. We're still playing catch up with it. So that's the increase from purchases from other governments and just some general increases in materials, goods, and supplies. Questions on the water budget?
Councillor Rudd.
Yeah, one question, please, on the purchase from other governments. Is that services or goods that we get from them?
That's just the water we get from them, the raw water.
That's the raw
chin
water
and-
price? Okay,
That's just the raw water
that's,
to make our potable water.
yeah, TID. Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you, Councillor Beckering.
It's okay, Mr. Mayor.
All right, thank you. Any other questions arising? All right, Mr. Scheer.
So we'll move on to wastewater. As you can see, contracted services are up. There again, we have a job we would need to do down on lower lagoons. We have lots of sludge removal. That's about $65,000, so that's in there for contracted services. But materials and goods have shot up. We've had some of our treatment chemicals. Our suppliers just said, look, you got a 30% increase. That's what you got. And we're seeing that, you'll hear that numerous times, supply chain increases, equipment parts are hard to find, fuel's gone up, and that's all related into that area. The interest in long-term debt, I'm assuming that's a secondary clarifier, is that right, Mr. Orwell? Yeah, for that debenture. Any questions on the wastewater?
Councillor Rudd.
Yeah, I just noticed that wages have gone down. Has there been some staff changes
That's
there?
because the percentages I explained earlier, from wastewater have moved on. So like I said, we had 2 people that were allocated just in wastewater. So the 100%. So we reallocated some of those positions into water, wastewater, and storm. So it's 56% wastewater, 40% water, and 4% storm, where it used to be just 100% wastewater. So that's just the moving around of wages is all we've done. Reallocation, yeah, it showed up in the water. That was the biggest one.
All right, thank you. Counselor Sorensen.
Well, just to jump onto that then, because I did notice that there was a certain percentage of increase in wages. So I was just wondering if there's new positions actually being added, or what the difference is.
So we were not adding any new positions in treatment. There'll be one position I'd be asking for later on, and that will be somewhat allocated to distribution and collection.
All right, thank you.
So we'll move on to solid waste and collection, recycling. This is a collaboration between 2 budgets, the collection of solid waste, recycling and organics, and the landfill budget. So we just kind of put them both together. The big driver here is our trucking costs have just escalated over the past year and a half. We just looking at trying to get that in line. It's really tough. They said that's our price. Fuel's gone up, equipment's gone up, that supply chain increases. And we've seen purchases from other governments. We've seen our tipping fees go up. They're saying when you dump here, you're going to pay more money. Mr. T-Bone has negotiated with Redcliffe for lower amounts, but when it's windy, we can't take it there, and the other ones are substantially higher. So that's the worst of it, I believe. We are looking at other ways of doing this and maybe bringing that trucking in-house or going to a better contracted service, but we're still reevaluating.
All right, any questions arising? Counselor Beckering.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Scheer, all the utilities that you've mentioned, there's a built-in percentage increase in the budget, correct?
We've never asked for an increase in utility rates. One time we did for commercial garbage, but the whole time we've been here, we've never asked for an increase in utilities. Rates, I should specify that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Follow up then.
Absolutely.
So there is no increase in the budget this year?
That we discussed, yes, there is. I believe it's in the fee bylaw. Due to increases in supply chains, increases in our needs, it's going to have an increase, and council's direction for a 5-year plan to make sure that our utilities are self-sustaining. So council has given that direction, so there will be increases.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Follow up then. I'm not saying we shouldn't have an increase, Mr. Scheer, but what is the increase? Do you know?
Not offhand, it's in the fee bylaw. Is that correct, Mr. Orbach, or is it coming?
The increase, the rates are already incorporated in the fee bylaw. Now, from the budget standpoint, this other side, we reflect them on the revenue side. So you'll be seeing the there'll be revenue on the water side, the wastewater side, like that. But if you want to see the actual rate, it's in the fee bylaw. So whatever council agreed to increase our utility rates with, we've spread that one over 5 years. But the actual rates are in the fee bylaw.
All right, thank you, Councilor Beckering.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I hate to belabor this, but by now, the fee bylaw, which has not been passed, is built into the revenue side of your budget, Mr. Scheer, or not?
That is correct.
Okay, how much is that, please?
It's spread all over the place. So we do have some revenue on water side. We have some revenue on wastewater side. We have some revenue on all those utility areas. And I think that is why in the opening statement, I said part of this is the opening to kick off our budget Now, all those assumptions have been incorporated in the budget. Now, with council discussion, we'll get the direction how to proceed from there before the second round.
All right, yes. Mr. Sheriff?
Thank you. So there was a bunch of graphs. I don't know if you want to run through the graphs, Mr. Tugel. You can tell that stormwater's gone down. You'll see majority of that wastewater is the same, water is the same. Solid waste, and you'll see that in solid waste, you'll see it go up and down. The big climb is for the trucking, but we should point out every other year for 2 years, then you can see in 2021 we went up again. That's due to concrete grinding and asphalt grinding, so we add $40,000, $50,000 to the budget, which jumps it up. Now move on to roads and walks and engineering.
All right, sorry, Mr. Councilor Sorensen.
So sorry, I'm just not familiar. So every other year you do the concrete and the asphalt crushing?
Yes.
And so that's why it's just an
That's why it
every
jumps
other
up and
year?
down. Then we left it for about 3 or 4 years, and now you'll see an increase this year again.
All right, thank you. Mr. Sheriff, carry on, please.
So we move on to engineering roads and walks. Engineering, we look at all the town's infrastructure. We work with our consultant engineers, MPEs, evaluating what needs to be done. We brought these projects forward many times for council's consideration. And move on to roads and walks. There again, the town's roads, walks, walking trails, many aspects to roads and walks. If we look at their budget, you can see an increase, and this is where we get to the request for an additional person. You can see salaries and wages is a driver in this budget. We're asking our council for an additional maintenance operator 1 position. This department hasn't been expanded in well over 10 years. If you look at the growth within Tabor, if you even just go 1% growth, which has been a little bit more, it's more than 10% of the growth. It's 10% of growth. So it's really hard for a department to keep up without additional staff. You've increased roads, you've increased D&C, distribution and collection pipes. You introduced more maintenance in the roads, stormwater management. So there's many aspects towards this department. There again, when EPCOR was managing their treatment facilities, they look after the repairs to any of our pipes and services. We've brought that back in-house. We do that more in-house, so just our staff is doing that, so we managed to maintain a better budget by doing that. So this growth, we feel this position is much needed in roads and walks, but we will look for council's direction as to if that in the budget.
All right, thank you, Councilor Sorensen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just have a question in regards to asphalt and repaving, and I know that the fees have drastically increased. I was wondering if you've allotted in your budget for the increase in that also.
Well, we're hoping this additional position will help in that matter. If we look at, we get about $180,000 to do asphalt repairs throughout the year. Well, 5 years ago, that bought $180,000 worth. Now it doesn't. It buys about $110,000 worth. So within that there was the aspect to rip out the asphalt and to remove gravel, put in new gravel, and compact it for the contractor. Well, if we can take some of that in-house by this new position, then maybe we're going to get more asphalt back again rather than letting the contractor do it, because their costs are going to go up too.
All right, thank you, Councilor Rudd.
Yeah, a couple of things. Does your wages, salaries, wages, and benefits line with the variance indicated, does that include the position that you're asking for?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And in that paragraph where you're describing roads and walks as requesting, it's not completed at the bottom of it. It just
Yeah, I should add a couple words in a period. I apologize.
Did we miss anything?
No, it's all there. It just lost a train of thought, I guess. Okay. And Lisa missed it, so I'll blame Lisa.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. Any other questions arising?
So within that other wages, we should point out too, and I forgot to include this, we have 1 maintenance operator 1 that's currently is going to be moving up to maintenance operator 2. So there is a slight increase in wages in that aspect also.
All right, thank you. Councillor Sorensen?
Thank you. And just going back to the asphalt repair, do you feel that 180,000 is a good budgeted amount to allocate towards the annual maintenance towards our roads?
No, I don't. That should be around 250 to 300,000 annually.
Councillor Rupp?
Yeah, sorry, on the other position that is mentioned here in your notes is the facility maintenance manager position. Is that also included in the variance?
So, no, it's not. This
Okay.
is including the property management budget. I just want to have a discussion with council because it falls under public works. So, within that facility maintenance manager position, this position was recommended by council back in 2015, I believe. It was accepted by council. It's been on our radar. It's just that that manager resigned, and due to budget constraints, the council said just don't fund the position, leave it open. So when we have a need, we can go ahead and fill it. Well, we think there's a need now. We know with Blake having to do with the energy, looking at all the energy that's being consumed by the town, we really feel that combining those two positions, we think that that would pay for itself in the energy reductions and into centralizing this management position to help with the facilities. There's 34 facilities. That's quite a lot of work for the small staff you have. So there's a lot of contracted services there. And managing those contracted services, plus the capital projects for building, really, we need a manager.
All right, Mr. Scheer, just have a question for you related to the asphalt annual amounts. Is that relatively the same every year, or is that changing every other year?
No, it has not changed in 10 years.
It's always roughly the 180,
Yeah.
180,000. Okay, so I know you have a priority format that you deal with.
Yeah.
Are
And we
we,
have come back to council and said,
right,
look, we need more money for this.
Yeah.
And we're not scared to do that. And council knows that more repairs are
we
needed.
have authorized
Yes,
that, exactly.
And you have
So
authorized that in the past.
my question is, Mr. Scheer, is are we maintaining status quo for keeping up with what's actually required, the high-profile areas, the high-risk areas, if you will, or are we falling behind?
In my view, we are falling behind.
All right, thank you.
And I should point out, it's not because of our staff's work. They work hard every day. It's contracted services, asphalt's gone up, everything else has gone up associated with that repair.
All right, thank you. Any other questions arising? All right, Mr. Scheer?
So any more questions about all the utilities, roads, walks? Okay,
No, let's get it covered. Perfect, thank you.
thank you.
I'll call upon recreation.
Good afternoon.
How are you doing?
So the department we call Recreation is actually made up of three major components. One of them being Recreation, the second one Parks, and the third is ACE. The core services, and I'll just run through them each one at a time. So Recreation operates the facilities, the Aquafun Center, the 2 sheets of ice, the auditorium, and the meeting rooms in our major facility. Recreation coordinates and facilitates the ACE-led events, the summer youth programs, and special events that are not town-generated events, but where we see user groups come and want to use our particular facilities. Recreation helps them, books those activities, and then helps them plan and operate, clean up, and those kind of things with our particular facilities. And then Recreation will also take a leading role in major community events such as the Southern Alberta Summer Games when we host those. Parks operates and maintains 350 acres of outdoor spaces. This includes, it's a little bit of a list here, but just to give you an idea and some context, there's 34 community parks, 4 tennis courts, the skate park, 2 spray parks, the oval track and field facility, 12 soccer fields, 17 individual playgrounds, 10 ball diamonds, 2 football fields, 3 campgrounds, the walking trail system, and the trout pond. In those areas, the staff fully does all the maintenance, which includes irrigation, mowing and trimming, fertilizer, weed management, pest management, tree management, inspections of the playground equipment, and waste control. Recreation also provides grounds maintenance services for the 20-acre parcel of the Tabor Memorial Garden Cemetery, Legion and Youth Center out at Kenmac, the library, cenotaph, police and fire stations, and they also support Communities in Bloom and their efforts around town. So the major budget changes derive from three major areas. We've asked in certain, you'll see increases in this. There are no new positions in the salary lines. That comes from CPI, a reallocation structure, and then some incremental position changes inside of the existing organizational structures. The main components of the increase, we're asking for parks maintenance, a total of $156,500 to accommodate scope increases for new parks and playgrounds. So that includes the Legion Campground, which has never been formally accommodated, the new Trout Pond Campground, which has just recently been irrigated and upgraded, the Meadows, which is, we will assume control and maintenance of both the parks and the properties, vacant properties, starting next summer, and Prairie Lakes Subdivision Phase 2. The new playgrounds that will come online next year are the Kiwanis Park Playground and the Trout Park Playground. And the third component of our ask is $16,000 to support 4 new ACE events.
All right, Councillor Rudd?
Yeah, a couple of questions. First, deal with the wage increase. There's no new staff, and yet we got $250,000 in increase in wages. So I heard what you said about incremental increases and CPI and things, but I just need a little more breakdown of that and a little more explanation to justify, like I say, almost $250,000.
Now we haven't, maybe, do we want to talk CPI and?
Mr. Tebow?
Just wanted to speak to the, Mr. Orr can come up and speak to CPI and stuff in a minute, but the salaries, wages, and benefits, we do have a closed session afterwards to get into probably more of the specific details that you might be looking at. In generalities, Chris can explain what it is that falls into there. But typically, we do the salaries, wages discussion in closed to give you that level of detail so that you could better understand.
Right.
So just wanted to mention that.
That's correct. Thank you. Councillor Becker?
Okay.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I guess, Mr. Egan, you said at one point in your presentation that there's some reallocation of staffing from different departments or coming into your department, because I noticed the general trend in the presentations, there's a huge change of reallocation. So sometimes it's not a fair comparison from last year to this year because of the reallocation of either resources or staff or whatever it might be. So I think Councillor Rudd made a good point, but it's hard to speak to when you have reallocated stuff that we can't compare to last year.
Right.
Is that correct, Mr. Orba?
That is correct, but I'll be giving specifics later on in the evening.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Rudd?
Yeah, and a follow-up question then on the on your budget change highlights chart, contracted and general services, you're showing a total of $156,000. If you look at number 2, increased maintenance at the new park, increased maintenance for the Meadows, that you add those together, it's 156. But on the budget sheet, it shows 46,000. Is there something I'm missing there? if you look at contract and general services, 46,455.
Yeah,
So
so-
what's,
So that 46 would be the net result. There was all the maintenance costs associated with the major facilities that Recreation operates have been transferred to 6910. So that is a substantial reduction. And then to identify the increases, we've chosen to plug them into the contracted and general services and material goods as lump sum amounts. So the increased maintenance for the new parks of 50,000, that's a budgeted amount that would spread out over the entire budget if approved. But just to show it, so the net result is that 46,000, including the two increases and then the major decrease, which is the movement to 6910.
okay, we'll flesh this out later.
We will. Perfect, thank you.
There's a few moving pieces in there, yes.
All right, any other questions arising? Counselor Sorensen?
Just so I don't forget, but it's not directed just direct to you or directly, but if a position's unfilled, is it still in your budget?
Normally, yes,
Normally,
yeah.
okay. And then it just carries forward until you fill that position?
That would be, unless there's a physical change.
Okay, thank you.
Very good question, yes, absolutely, thank you. All right, you got it covered, Mr. Egan?
Yep.
Thank you.
Going with that, our top four, the police is next.
Good afternoon, Your Worship, councilors.
Good afternoon.
The budget we bring for you today has been updated to reflect the changes to the Community Standards Unit in reference to the MD of Tabor and the Town of Tabor partnership and removal of revenue and expenses associated to photo radar as requested for consideration by the Commission. The possibility of retirement of Senior Sergeant 2023, the Next Generation 9/11 licensing, and a change to create the Tabor Police Services Victim Services Unit in April of 2023. TPS will bring in revenues of $160,000 to the budget for the new CSU program in 2023. This will be offset with expenses associated with the transition, including training, transitioning 2 vehicles into the Town of Tabor fleet, duty equipment and uniforms, etc. The Commission has asked for this budget to be prepared with the photo radar revenues and expenses removed from the police budget, and this has been done. But the revenues are not lost. They're just removed from this budget. A senior sergeant is eligible for retirement in 2023, and we will need to be prepared to recruit if this happens. The budget reflects the expenses associated to that recruitment. The Next Generation 9/11 is a capital item currently being installed. There will be ongoing licensing requirement for that software. $37,000 per year, that is offset by the increase in 9/11 revenues by the government of nearly $170,000. The Alberta government announced changes to the Victim Services Program and the province and recommended that municipal police agencies move to their own programs. We have established a budget that in the eventful change that is set to occur in April 2023, this will only occur if funding is provided by the police, by the province, and the anticipated budget of $190,000. About $13,000 worth of facility maintenance funds were removed by the CFO to centralize this service delivery within the town. As you can see throughout our budget, it is significant. 85% of the budget is wages. Some of the remaining budget is not controlled by the Chief of Police. In areas where we have input, we have established a rationale for expenditures and created revenues where we can. For capital, the Tabor Police Service will be requesting funds for car replacement, $67,500, changing lighting to LED throughout the police building, $45,000, and licensing for the encryption of radio signals, $40,000. The Commission has gone through this budget line by line and unanimously agree that it's lean and has a little contingency and provides what is required to ensure adequate, effective policing to the town of Tabor and the regional municipal enforcement to the town and MD of Tabor. Respectfully submitted by John McDonald, Chair of the Police Commission.
All right, thank you. Councillor Beckering.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. McDonald. Very good presentation. Could you explain to me the salaries and benefits is an increase of $308,000, which is about 8% of the total salary budget, but that includes a new position of the MD, community police officer, correct, sir?
That's correct.
That's correct. So if you take that out, well, how much is the increase, please? Because I don't know what he gets paid, but just generally, please.
His salary's around, the salary for the employee would be around $76,000 plus benefits. So at 23%.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So we'll follow up then. So that's an increase of about, besides that position, about $200,000. How is that justified, please?
Want me to step in?
Yep.
Thank you. So there was one agreement that's already been approved by council, and that was the Police Association agreement. And I believe you know what the settlement was for that.
Yeah.
The QP agreement is outstanding. So it's an unknown right now as to what that's going to be. So we've given a best guess in relation to the budget. Your management salary grids were also established through the management contract that you approved as council in relation to what happened there. So for COLA, so those are your increases. There's no increase to staff levels within the Tabor Police Service for the upcoming year unless it's funded. So $160,000 from the MD for the MDCSO position, as well as the potential changes to the Victim Services Program, which will see approximately $190,000 come into the organization, which will possibly fund hours for work within the within the Victim Services Unit of the Tabor Police Service.
Mr. Mayor, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Councillor Rudd.
Yeah, where are we at with the agreement? Is it a 3-year agreement with the association?
I believe so.
Yeah, do we know where we're at? Are we in year 1, 2, or?
We're in year 1.
Year 1, okay, so, okay, thank you. And follow up, where did that radar money go?
Well, it will go back into the town revenues.
Okay.
So if you look at the increase, the overall increase, 11.28%, which is a substantial increase in this budget. If you take those revenues, it's 2.5% increase overall.
Wow.
So those revenues that you see, and I don't know how many speeders we're going to catch. I can't predict that. But we can say that revenues generated from that will go back into the town instead of into the police budget.
All right, thank you. Councillor Sorensen.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I took part in the budget session of the Police Commission, and I just want to say it's very thoughtful, and I was impressed of how the whole meeting went. So I can, just pat you guys on the back. It was a very well thought out budget.
Great, thank you. Any other questions arising? None whatsoever? All right, thank you, gentlemen. Oh, sorry. Chief, yes.
The only comment I would make, sir, is that under the Police Act, we have an obligation to provide you with a budget and a policing plan. So the policing plan is also attached, so your approval of the budget is also of the policing plan.
Okay.
Just to make sure that gets done as well under the legislation.
All right, thank you, Chief. Appreciate that.
One of the things I want to bring to your attention, we did have another audit in our 911, and we passed with glowing colors again. So we have some excellent services provided by the town, by our employees. So just so you're aware that we're proud of them, and I know you're proud of them as well. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much.
John.
All right, Mr. Roa.
Administrative Services.
Hello, Council.
Good evening.
So the Administrative Services budget is changed a little bit this year. We're not actually asking for too much of anything. So we do have some built-in increases for the step increases for management, as well as QP, which, as you realize, is not known at this point in time. So that's included in the wages. We're also asking for a cemetery fire vault. Ours is at capacity, so we have to have all of those permanent records stored in a fire vault. So there were some changes. You'll notice under the salaries, wages, and benefits. There's approximately, well, I'm going to say about $11,000 change there. There was a reclassification from the existing admin assistant position that's currently vacant to what's called now an executive assistant position, which was agreed to by QP in the town. And there was also some reallocations, you'll notice, that makes up those salaries, wages, and benefits. Every year we take a look at what is the staff doing? What areas are they spending their time on? And so that's a reallocation that happened there, different percentages, and for communications or for admin assistant at that point in time. Then also you'll notice in contracted and general services, there was also a move to 6910 as we've been discussing here, and that move amount was 47,501. So overall, that just brings a percentage of change of negative 9.94, but that's what is included in that change. So I'm available if you have
Thank
questions.
you. Councillor McLean.
Sorry, I'm new. What's 6910?
Oh, sorry, it's building facility maintenance. Yeah.
Oh,
So
I
all
see.
of the general repairs and things like that are being moved into a
I
centralized
see. Okay,
location.
thank you.
All right, thank you. Councillor Sorensen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So for the salaries and benefits, so the admin to the executive assistant will therefore be a salary increase for that position? Is that why there's part of the change?
Yes.
Okay. And if I may just add one more
Absolutely.
question. There is a decrease in contracted and general services, so that's moved to a different department?
Yes, that's moving to the centralized facility maintenance department. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, thank you. Any other questions arising? All right, thank you, Ms. Manette.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Roy.
So I know 6910 will be mentioned quite a bit. It's just a cost center, and that's for property management.
All right, Mr. Tebow.
So everyone else stood up, so I thought I'd stand up and
Sure.
do the same. So this is my first year interacting with budget. The numbers look fantastic with a minus 16.83, but that is due to that contracted and general services. So there was, when we speak about the contracted and general services being centralized, what we actually did was we took line by line what existed in every other business unit, and we put that into the property management business unit. So there's been no actual ask for increases on those specific lines that you see these reductions in. So it was just like for like, moved it out of a bunch of places into a centralized place to be managed just a little differently in hopes for some efficiencies in that area. There is a slight increase to the salaries, wages, and benefits. That's due to projections and salary increases for our area. And to be noted, the administrative position and HR are reported separately from here, so this is fairly small. The material goods and supplies is just anticipated increases for what's been historically spent over the years. So if there's any questions, I can field them.
All right, thank you. Any questions arising? Councillor Rudd.
Yeah, we don't have the budget established yet for this new centralized pool of money for general services.
The money does show up in the property management business unit when we get, I think it's a little further down the list, but
Oh, is it? Okay.
it is in there. I believe it's somewhere around a $472,000.
And then would that include the $126,000
Correct.
negative
Yes.
there? Okay.
Yeah, every negative you see in contracting and general services throughout, we're just grabbed
That's
and
going
put over
into-
to that one, yeah.
I'll wait till we get there. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Councillor Sorensen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I was just wondering, again, I don't understand for your position what contracted and general services would be.
So my best understanding was there's office renovations that take place, and so anything that happens through contracted services with, upgrades to the building or HVAC things that fall into preventative and corrective maintenance, they were all landing in every individual building.
Okay.
So the idea was to get that all together in one place and have that managed centrally. So that's the kind of things that those are.
Thank you. Councillor Firth?
Thank you. I'm not sure if this is a better question for you and Mr. Orwa, but by centralizing all of that facility maintenance, I know we'll create some efficiencies, but do we anticipate any cost savings there as well?
Yes, that is the anticipation. It's sort of the Costco or the amalgamation model, larger works better. So my anticipation is we don't know well enough what is going to look better. So that's why it was taken like for like and put over to the new area. The plan going forward would to be, if we can find efficiencies in that area, then you should see that number in property management go down next year, everything else being equal. So awful hard to speak that far out, but that was the idea. And organizations this size or even a little bit smaller, once you get an asset management program in place, it helps you with preventative maintenance, corrective maintenance, gives you some really good ideas and numbers. And usually places of this size, or like I say, even a little smaller, do move towards a centralized model, has been my experience in other places. So, and it does help quite a bit with your asset management program.
Makes sense. Thank you.
All right, Councillor Rudd.
Yes, thanks. Yeah, that centralization, I could have used that in my past. So it takes a load off. So in your response to Councillor Sorensen regarding the contracted and general services, I heard you say that that money is controlled by your office and was used for renovations and so.
Any other maintenance that was required for the building, so there was office.
But it's to this building here.
Yes, my understanding is it was everything that fell into the, well, actually, I think Carrie actually controlled a lot of the other property maintenance and all the leasing. Is that correct, Carrie?
Yes, if I could. The contracted services that were allowed in this budget under the CAO budget were solely for this building. HVAC replacement, temperature thermostats, things like that, of that nature. Any of the other leased properties managed were through the facility maintenance budget already. So
that would have covered then this renovation that we're sitting in here today over the last couple of years?
In the CAO budget?
Yeah. Yeah, for the new
yeah,
council chambers and everything that we see back there.
Yeah, did we capitalize that?
That was capitalized.
That was capital?
Yeah. I would just say like the carpet that you see in that area over where your mayor and council offices are, that was part of a regular maintenance schedule.
Right,
So
okay.
then things like that, or paint in that area, new doorknobs, things like that would have been included in operational under the CEO.
We're not looking at anything major coming up?
In the budget that was moved over to property management, there is an office renovation in there. I think it's around $46,000 worth of office renovations.
And that doesn't get capitalized, that 46,000? I mean, we capitalized the light bulbs at the police office.
I'm not sure how that would work, if it gets capitalized or not.
I just wonder where that tipping point comes, where you say that's going to be a capital item and that's going to be a budget item.
All right.
Just to clarify from accounting standpoint, we follow the policy, our tangible capital assets. So we have a threshold, and the threshold is 5,000. So anything above 5,000 on the capital side will be capitalized. But anything, might be related, you think it's capital, but it's below 5,000 will be expensed. That's part of the policy.
All right, thank you. Mr. Sherry, you have something else to add? Or?
We would just point out too, there's a difference between complete office renovation. Now, if we redid all this again, that'd be capitalized. But if we're just simply painting, things like that, it would be capitalized, but it comes out of the operational budget. So I know it's kind of hard to understand. We replace sewer pumps for $20,000 that are in operating budget, but they get capitalized after the fact. So there is renovations that's going on, but they're much needed renovations. Some of them are Haven't been painted walls in 20 years. The carpet's still, the linoleum's still there for 20 years. That's more operational. But if it was renovated again in the past 5 years, that should be capitalized. Yeah.
Well, thank you. Councillor Beckering.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Thibault, regarding contractor and general services, are the legal advice or legal services included in that?
The legal services, I think they reside in Kerry's budget, right, under your area? Or there's professional services in both locations?
Yeah, there's professional services in both locations, and legal advice would fall under professional services, not contracted services.
Thank you. Councillor Sorensen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think I probably could ask a few more questions, but maybe I'll table them for
All
another
right.
time.
All right, fair enough. Mr. Thibault, anything else to add?
No, nothing more to add.
All right. Great, thank you.
Thank you very much. Just to add just a little bit to that, also part of the contracted services, what goes through the CO budget is also janitorial and snow removal around here. That also flows through contracted services, janitorial.
All right, that comes up regular in the budget, or sorry, the audit committee also, right?
Correct.
Thank you.
Next is fire.
All right. Chief Munshaw.
Well, good afternoon, Council.
Good afternoon.
Thanks for letting me come up here, present this nice little budget to you. So why I'm here and what I represent under my hat is the main fire department, but then I also have response, emergency response, as well as fire prevention training, as well under that, as well as the fire training center and the emergency management as the DEM. So all of them are all captured under this budget. So what we end up looking at this year is we have some under revenues. You'll notice that we ended up not bringing in quite as much revenue. There's a point there. Last year we ended up having a double time. So we did some work for the government and then we did our work for ourselves. In doing that, they ended up paying us more last year, but we come in, and that was for tank inspections, those fuel tanks that we were doing. We did it for the government in 2021, and they actually paid us in 2022 for that. And then we took it on fully. And from moving forward, we'll be just reflectively seeing this kind of gain in our revenues. The next one's coming in. You'll see salaries. That's the main topic tonight as it goes through. So that's under that management. I have two managements as well under myself, and we did that COLA increase this year as well. And you'll see those reflected in that point. Then you'll see what we talked about is 6910, general contracted services. That $8,000 has been removed out, put into building maintenance, okay? And then from there, well, everybody's seen the price in COLA going up, so we've seen that 24,000 increase. That brings us into the total where we're looking at this year of our main increases. So I'm open for absolutely any questions the council may have.
All right, thank you. Any questions arising?
I get off lucky on this.
Chief, looks like, line
by line, it's much easier.
Councillor Firth, do we have a question?
Not quite.
Excellent. I was going to feel down.
Do you anticipate any changes in the current leases that you have within the emergency services building?
I would love to see some changes. But as the contracts we've done both 2 out of 3 extended into a 5-year contract this last year, 2022. So both Canada Post as well as All Fitness came into both those leases. We have an existing AHS lease for 5 years, and that's in year 2 of that 5. So it'll be a bit before we see those.
All right, thank you. Councillor McLean.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just had a quick question. So the huge jump from 2016 to where we are now, was that because of the separation from you and the MD?
Correct.
I
That's
see.
the
Okay,
exact
that's
point
what I
you're
thought.
seeing there.
Yeah.
You'll see the trends were actually going down, working together.
Yeah.
Collaboration's a very good thing.
Oh, I know.
And you've seen those trends going down, but that spike when it comes up
Yeah,
is being
that's
highly
what that
noticed.
is.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Gotcha.
All right, thank you. Any other questions? Chief, you got off pretty lucky.
That is pretty lucky. Thank you
Perfect.
very
Thank you,
much,
Chief.
folks.
Mr. Roa.
Yeah, you did.
We're not important.
All right, Mr. Roa.
Thank you, Mr. Orwa, for giving council a second to try it. Questions? Okay. So this budget is for the management of what you need in your area, as well as community-related organizations, which you had the presentation from on October the 5th. So that is one of the main increases, and you'll notice that one under transfers to local boards and agencies. Those are the increases associated with that, as well as what I discussed in previously, the reallocation of wages. So that would be, if we're spending more time on council items last year, historically, I think moving forward, we're going to change those percentages. So that's what that is about. The interest on long-term debt, now that's the library debenture. So you'll see that in that allocation as well as the repayment of long-term debt. That's the library debenture as well. So that repayment is just about over. And that is about it. You'll get some offshoot as well for the increases to salaries and wages there, because in our department we do have management staff that support council as well as QP staff that support council. So that is in the wages, salaries, and benefits. But other than that,
right,
I'm
thank
available
you.
for questions.
Any questions arising whatsoever? Councillor Sorensen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And so, yeah, this is the first year that you really moved quite a bit of the hours over to time spent on council over to this department.
Yes, exactly. It ended up with about looking at what was going on last year with the twinning and the amount of time for certain projects. So that took quite a bit of communications time. And so yes, we did. We added from my wages 20% to council, and also from communications, we increased that from 10% to 30%. So that's significant there. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council.
Good afternoon.
So you'll see that our HR and health and safety budget has a huge spike. That mainly comes from the fact that we're reallocating the human resources side of the budget. It used to sit in finance and customer care, and it's going to move over and so be contained together with health and safety. So that's why we're seeing the big swing. There's not too much else that's changed from when it sat in finance, but it's just the move over. Any questions?
All right, thank you. Any questions at all? Councillor McLean?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. What kind of contracted and general services does HR and health and safety require?
So under our health and safety side of the budget, all of our first aid kind of training and some other like professional services or professional development, training goes to health and safety, and there's a little bit budgeted for your next human resources manager when that's hired.
Thank you. Councillor Run?
Yeah, since the reorganization, and so how many staff do you have?
So we're two.
There are two?
It's the human resources manager and the health and safety coordinator.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Got her covered. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Irwa?
So for the Planning and Economic Development Department, just to highlight a few things that are underway in planning, the core services there are long-range planning, so that's our statutory plans, subdivision planning, things like that. We're in really good shape as the town. All of our plans are fairly new and in good condition. The development, subdivision, and redistricting, so that's Selena and Evan, where you see all the work that they do coming before the Municipal Planning Commission and then bringing some of the those items to council. The town is also responsible for issuing building permits. We contract that out to Superior Safety Codes, and they do the issuing of the building permits and then the inspections on the various buildings. They maintain their qualifications and status to be able to do that for us. We see a little bit of revenue, about 2/3 of the revenue goes to pay their bill, and a third comes to the town, so there's actually a revenue generation from contracting that out. And then we also use the Old Man River Regional Services Commission to do our GIS work, which planning is responsible for. And then the main function there, of course, is that group is enforcing, on an enforcement side, is the land use bylaws and things associated with that. In economic development, it's all about business attraction and retention. Business licensing is done in concert with finance. They collect the dollars, and we do the work associated with issuing and chasing those individual companies that move to town. A new responsibility that has fallen to economic development is the implementation of the Alberta Advantage Immigration Program, the 2 streams that the town has signed on for there. And then, not mentioned, but of high importance, is the Meadows. That subdivision and that initiative, budget-wise, falls within the planning department. So the proposed, or the changes that you see from 2022 to the proposed 2023 budget, the major impact is the change from the budget in the Meadows, where we initially had budgeted 10 sales of lots per year. We've gone to 2 sales anticipated for 2023, so we're really scaling back our expectations. That increases over the next 3 years back to 10 lots a year. The wages, salaries, benefits, that line, that reflects the 2-year term position in economic development that was approved by council. And then in the contracted services, there's every 3 years we budget for a local census, and that budget is $25,000. So it shows up once every 3 years, and it's showing up in 2023. And then there's some long-term interest related to the long-term debt held on the Meadows, shows up in the planning department budget. So those are the 3 major changes that have caused a fairly good spike in the planning budget.
All right, thank you. Councilor Rudd?
Yeah, you touched on it a little bit there, Chris, the repayment of long-term debt. Last year was 371, this year's 396. Did our interest rate change, or?
I'm going to default to Mr. Orwa. I don't believe so. You make 2 payments per year?
Should go down as you make payments.
The interest rates are fixed because we go through Alberta Capital Finance. So the interest rates are fixed.
So then why did it go up? Oh, never mind, down.
You know, as you pay, it goes down.
It's 360.
Right.
Oh,
All right.
I did.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right. Mr. Egan? Got her covered? Perfect. Thank you. Mr. Orwa?
Property management.
I've asked Blake to help us out with this budget, and you hear his proposal, then we'll have a discussion.
Good afternoon,
Thank you.
council.
Good afternoon.
So you guys are somewhat up to speed on this property management, but to give you guys a little bit more insight, so it has previously existed as various business units and line items. Those have all been amalgamated now into one single centralized business approach, into one management pool, the 6910, to help manage the town's building assets. So with the core services of facility maintenance, that hasn't changed. So we're going to continue to prolong the useful life of our major building components through annual maintenance and repairs of all the facilities. So the staffing levels don't change, and the core services of what we provide don't change. So some of the department goals moving forward for 2023 is we're going to continue on with the anticipated building maintenance based on historical averages, annual inspections, life cycle costing, critical repairs. We're going to do a thermostat retrofit at a lot of our facilities that we should see some good energy savings from. There's going to be some upgrades to the finance department lunchroom and photocopy room here in the admin building. The police chief touched on it, but they're going to do an LED upgrade at the police station facility-wide, which will assist with them on that, and then a few other smaller projects. But as you go through the property management line items here, you'll see there is a slight increase in revenues from the rentals. There's a slight decrease in other revenues. That was a partial reallocation of the energy manager grant funding. Salary, wages, and benefits, there's a slight decrease there. I believe that was from also a partial reallocation of some admin assistance, I believe. The big one here, obviously, is contracted and general services. There's a huge increase there of $471,000. Again, that's just pulling all of the contracted and general services from fire, police, recreation, and bringing them all into that one centralized budget. Likewise with the materials, goods, and supplies, there's a $70,000 increase there with the same train of thought. So overall, there's about a 71.6% increase to the proposed 2023 budget. And again, it's from the consolidation of those line items from other departments.
All right, thank you. Any questions whatsoever? Getting off real easy. Perfect, thank you so much.
So Blake has done an assessment for compared 2022 to 2023, bringing all those budgets into one. So what's the difference between 22 and 2023 as far as percentage, Blake?
It's about 2.7% if you're looking at apples to apples.
Yeah.
All right.
So that's good to know. It's just a slight increase. Everything's pulled over, but it's just a slight increase. I think we should just discuss what's operational and what's capitalized. We do it at our treatment facilities where the property maintenance looks after the building, the roof, HVAC, and some electrical, depending on the building. Some components within, say, our treatment facilities, like I was saying, the sewage pump, are not building maintenance, are not facility maintenance. That still belongs within the treatment center. So it's depends on the building and what's described in the budget. Yes, we can get a $20,000, $30,000 pump. That is operational, but Mr. Orwell capitalizes that at the end of the year. So that's how that usually works. I just want to make sure we understand that. It's an accounting thing that nobody really understands.
That's why we rely on Mr. Orwell. All right, thank you, Councilor Rudd.
Yes, thanks, Mr. Mayor. Question on the department goals for 2023. Talked about administration building upgrades, which I asked about before. It says upgrades to finance department, lunchroom, and photocopy room. Where's that money reflected in the budget? And is that going beyond paint and doorknobs?
Mr. Tebow?
So line item number 7 is what you're asking about, department goals?
Yes.
Yep, so that money should be sitting in the property management area. So we had IT move over to the Public Works building.
Right.
So that's created a vacancy in sort of the center area. And there's some plans to move the copy space over to that area. No one sits in the copy space, so there's no need for windows and things like that. I'm actually not 100% certain what the lunchroom upgrades are. That must have been a previous project.
Yes. But I can speak to the finance department. So we're doing a bit of an upgrade here this year with the painting and stuff in the hallway and in the main room. But the offices, we did not have enough money. Contracted services have escalated. So next year we're hoping to get those offices renovated, painted, carpet, and that's what that upgrade is.
Are we moving any walls?
Not that I'm aware of. There might be some in the other areas.
There will be some door and wall movement to access the copier room. So finance will be able to go directly across the hall to enter that. We're making a shift with the HR office to not be out on an island out there. They're going to be in where the IT office folks used to sit. So inside there's the glass area with the glass door at the front that says
That'll be
information
HR?
technology. It's anticipated to be HR, yes.
Thank you. Counselor Sorensen?
There will be some soundproofing with HR. That's a serious component with that. So yes, something is going to have to be added to that room.
Just, Mr. Chair, just removing the glass to make that soundproof,
So
or?
within the room, the walls that back onto the coffee room, there will
Oh.
be something added there.
Okay.
Same with the other room and on the insulation up top, soundproof barriers, things like that.
Okay, thank you. Counselor Sorensen?
Is there a plan?
Pardon me?
Is there a plan?
Is there a plan?
Yeah, a drawing?
Oh, I don't know.
Maybe bring one to the next meeting. Have a look.
We can, I guess, bring one forward. We have talked about a few areas, but
Yep, there is a drawing. We can bring that to council.
Okay, thank you.
Counselor Sorensen?
Thank you. I guess I'm just a bit confused as to property management and contracted and general services. When you guys have it broken down into admin, CAO, like all these different departments, I guess I'm really confused as to how you guys are coming up with these numbers and how you're, just spreading them or cost sharing.
The best person to speak to it is probably Mr. Orwa, as far as what exists. I don't know the budgets well enough to tell you what exists in each one of those lines, being my first year through the budget. So if that's the type of question you're asking, I don't know myself.
Yeah, it'd just be
So,
my first year
yeah,
too.
within our budgets, we always had a line for building maintenance, and it was X
Okay.
amount of dollars.
Okay.
Or planned projects. So all we did was just pull that into one budget.
Okay.
That's all. I mean, as far as, with Blake's done the evaluation, only 2.7% increase. There hasn't been a drastic.
But just if I may, Mr. Mayor,
Sure.
it's still like on each individual budget, for admin services and stuff, there's still a line item and it's still being carried forward. So I'm just wondering.
So maybe we can build a bit of a chart saying 30% was from recreation, 20% from public works, things like that.
If, like, I don't want to create work, but it's really, I just don't understand it right now.
All right, thank you. You had a question? Okay.
I think for clarification purposes, I think I understand what Councillor Sorensen is asking. In property management, that is 6910, that is for building maintenance and repairs, only in that area. Now, each and every department also uses the third party for something else. For example, it leads me to finance budget, which is next. You can see finance also has contracted services. That has nothing to do with building, repairs, and maintenance. So that is, we are now using the third party also to do some work for us. And when you see, for example, in finance, because I think I'm next, yeah, finance is next. That is where we have Benchmark. Benchmark is our assessor. We contract it outside. They come and do the assessment for the town. So that's a contracted services. Now, you could have other things like, for example, the auditors, it's a third party contracted service. They come and do audit for the town. So those ones flows through finance. That's why you see you have contracted services under finance. Right. So these are, in a layman's language, I would say, third party doing something for a department, which has nothing to do with repairs and maintenance, which
Thank
is
you.
in 6910.
All right, thank you. Counselor Rudd?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm still hung up on property management here. So under the mission statement, it talks about developing internal capacity to manage and maintain community infrastructure. And I couldn't agree more with that statement. So you need some staff with the proper knowledge, skills, and the abilities to do that. So then again, we've put everything into this one department, and yet there's no manager yet. So when are we going to have that discussion and have that, get that sorted out?
We can have that discussion now. As you've seen in our submittal, we said Blake is more than happy to come on board. We can move that over. His funding ends in September of next year, but he feels he has capacity to fill this position. So we could move this over as early as January 1st, and it'd be just a small top up for him. He's very good at this, and I think it would enhance no doubt it would make our facilities quality of repairs elevated, as somebody is actually going there, as you say, and recording everything, doing the life cycle, the asset management, and things like that, and talking to the operators of the facilities and ensuring that the work is done.
Yeah. So thanks. I
Sure.
follow
Yep,
this.
you better.
Yeah, so, so the budget then, if Blake was to take on, wear this hat, then what becomes of his position there? Like we amalgamate the two into one?
Exactly, we're amalgamating the two.
Okay,
And we've been talking to the Energy Management Program.
yes,
They actually said he might receive some funding for the next couple of years. It might only be 30% or something like that, but that would help pay for that wage too. No guarantee yet, but they really like the job he's doing, and they actually extended his grant for another year, which he's the only one in Alberta, I believe, Blake, that got that extension.
yeah. No, we've been very pleased as well, Blake, so. Okay, thanks, that's
All right.
starting to come together.
Thank you, Councillor McLean.
Oh, thank you. Asked and answered.
All right. Perfect, thank you. Mr. Scheer, it's got it covered.
Nope, we're good. Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
Great. Councillor Beckering.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Scheer, we've discussed somewhat at length about do you capitalize or do you expense, right? I mean, I think Mr. Orva said the threshold is $5,000, and I understand all that. And I know the history of capitalization or not. I don't think it's within the purview of council to tell you what should be capitalized or not. Right?
That's an accounting thing.
There you go. So
We have a policy
So why
for
are we
that.
talking about it?
I just wanted to try and get some clarification, right? I mean,
All right.
it confuses me quite often too. And then you look at this building, and if you look, well, this is the town side, and that's the MD side. The MD actually pays for us to maintain their side.
Right.
Right? Just for council's clarification, that's all.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Scheer. Mr. Roy?
So we started from the big ones as we come down, and we're now winding down with the small little ones. So before you is the finance, if you can go to the table. So you can see from the finance budget, there is a reduction of 8%. And the major driver there is just salaries, wages, and benefits. And I think you heard from HR department, originally, HR used to be under the CEO in the olden days. Then we moved it to finance. Then now it's moved to be together with health and safety. And that's why you see that huge reduction in salaries and wages. Apart from that, the only other thing you can see there is the contracted services. And of course, again, as I said, we use the third party for other things. So this is where the assessors, we have to pay the benchmark assessors to do the assessment for us. KPMG for our auditors also flows through there. Apart from that, materials and goods and supplies, the very minor ones, that's just for postage, office supplies, and that kind of thing. And that's the end of finance budget.
All right, any questions for Mr. Roy? All right, thank you. Well, Councillor Beckering.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Orva, approximately how much does a benchmark charge the town per year? Is it per property, or do you know? Can you give us some idea, please?
Yeah, it's about $25 per parcel. So we budget with about 4,000 parcels. About 4,000.
So thank you, Mr. Mayor. So that's about $100,000, is that about right?
That's correct.
Thank you.
Good math, very good math. Councillor Sorensen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I was just wondering, I know it shows a decrease in percentage, but overall, without the reallocation of wage, what is your percentage of increase for your budget?
I would say less than 2%.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Roy.
Thank you. That should be the end of it.
All right.
Here I am. Good afternoon.
Al, you're on.
Council. So just go to the meat. So 3 major areas of increase. Surprise, IT is going up again. $14,000 wages and increase, CPI step increase for staff. $71,000 for contracted and general services. And if I may, our contracted service is internet usage, payment for internet, for license and software, every single system we have, Office product, Adobe Reader, anything we purchase for license and software, plus training for IT, that's all falls under contracted service. The $71,000, there is $10,000 for e-ticketing system that we are looking in implementing next year. Next year, we have to do our security audit. We have $30,000 for that. We have to do that every 2 years. About $20,000 for our virtual system upgrades, and about $24,000 for a new VPN solution to meet the requirements from the RCMP. And a little bit increase here and there for some of the services and annual licenses that we have. And there is $1,300 under materials, goods, and supplies. These are for the downtown Wi-Fi, using Fort's power poles for that. Actually, we used to allocate that $1,300 under contracted service, but just to meet the finance, it moved under materials, goods, and supplies. And that's it for IT increase.
All right, thank you. Any questions for Al? None whatsoever. Al, you're getting off lucky again, buddy.
Thanks, sir.
All right, Mr. Roa.
Marks the end of our presentation. So probably we'll have to deal with the other areas maybe later on.
All right.
Closed.
Great, thank you. So no motion required at this time, correct? More discussion to come, correct?
No.
Perfect, thank you. On to item 7.4, information for council. Mr. Tebow. Soon.
This information for council is looking after a couple of the standing items. So there was a request by Councillor Sorensen. This is the sign that was come up with, I think, after a bit of back and forth. I think this is what we were looking for. So this provides the information for where, and also an online ability to look that up if people are right there. So this is on the post right by the sandy dump.
All right, thank you, Councilor Sorensen.
Yeah, that's exactly my vision. So thank you for seeing my vision and putting it into place. So that's perfect. Thank you.
All right.
And item number 2, this will be the first time that council has seen this. So administration is, of course, quite open to, if there was information on here that you thought you were going to see that you don't see, then by all means, let us know and we can tweak this report. But this is outlining all the capital projects and their status. If there's questions around the particular projects, I would just have to ask the individual, if they're here, to come forward and speak to that. But this is sort of the current status of projects, and we are trying to do this in real time, I guess. So we're not waiting for the actual invoice to land in finance. This is our best guesses as to, as close to today as we can get, so that you can see the sort of real-time picture.
All right, thank you. Councilor McLean?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just had a question. Not a lot, but some did come under budget. And so those extra funds, then do they get applied to the capital projects for this coming year and next year kind of thing?
If I may?
Absolutely.
The budgets that anything that's under budget gets rolled back into the capital reserves.
Oh, I see.
And then it gets reallocated by council next time around.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Rudd?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My question's about projects that don't get completed within the calendar year. So you've got, some departments have set goals and want to get this done or that done, but it's being shifted over the next year for a variety of reasons. So the question would be then, does that not overwhelm the department, A, and B, does the money just sits there, it's already paid for?
So couple of questions. One answer is that we carry forward, and council sees that list that we carry forward for next year. So those items, the money stays and follows the project into the next year, assuming that council allows all that to happen. And point number 2, the capital budget that was already presented once, stayed fairly light for that reason, because we can't keep up with historical projects
Yeah.
because of staffing.
Makes good sense. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Councillor Firth.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to say I really like the layout. It's great. It's concise but clear. There was just a few things on the third page, and I don't need an answer for them right now, but there was nothing in comments, so I was just curious about what the status of those projects are. Some of them say they're complete. I'm wondering, is that at budget or below? And I don't need an answer tonight, but I was just curious why some of that was blank. So
All right.
overall, great job. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Sorensen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was just wondering if we could have like an expected completion date, or, I don't know, it just seems a bit vague. I'm not sure if anyone else feels that way or not.
I can maybe speak to that a bit. I think Mr. Chiba, if you'd like to add, or Mr. Sure, either one, but there's a lot of things that come up different times here that's very hard to anticipate, correct? So it just depends on what the project is, but I know what you're asking, Councillor Sorensen. It'd be a great thing to have, but I don't think it's completely practical in most cases, actually. Mr. Sure?
Worship?
Sure.
Yes. There's a lot of projects, like take the wetlands project. We have a contemplative end date, which is December of next year. But I'm sure the contractor will be done way before that, but we don't exactly know, weather dependent. When we're ordering something like a piece of equipment, yes, it may be ordered. That may be 8 months away before we even get it. And sometimes they even extend that, like the police generator got extended by 6 months just because they couldn't get parts for it.
Okay.
So that's something we can't anticipate. It's the supply chain. We've all heard that.
Right. Yeah, thank you. Mr. Tebow.
Administration can certainly add that. We would probably word it as a contemplated completion date, just for the sake of having an idea of when it might be completed. But we would hope to not get browbeat if, in fact.
No, I think a range date would probably be reasonable, Mr. Tebow. So not expecting an exact date, because I know it's almost impossible to get most exact dates in the end result. Councillor Sorensen?
Yeah, sorry, just a follow-up if I may.
Sure.
So I see that there's, for the Lagoon Solar System, there's a contractor delay. And I'm not saying that this is the case, but what happens when something happens and the contractor is not able to fulfill their duties?
So we have clauses, penalty clauses, things like that, if they can't come in. This is due to the supply chain again. They can't get all the solar panels they need before they start. They actually want to get everything in order. So they asked us to, push this back 3-4 months, dependent on the supply of solar panels again. So this is what we're talking about. We can't give that exact date. I wish we could, but things have changed in our world, and we just can't move forward with exact dates. Even a month is tough anymore.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. Councillor Beckery.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to know, I guess, who establishes the percentage complete? Because I look at the small ice arena, EV ice resurfacer, it's 75% complete, but we're waiting for it. So who establish that 75% complete? 'Cause to me, it's 0% complete. It's not here.
That's accurate. Mr. Tebow.
To that question, Mr. Beckering, I would offer that these aren't strictly financial related results. So the 75% complete means we've gone through a procurement process, a selection process, an ordering process, and we're now waiting for the unit to arrive. So in this instance, I would say that the 25% remaining is the financial piece that will take place when the goods actually arrive. So I know that one in particular. I couldn't speak to all of them like that, but this one I do know that's what that's representing.
All right, thank you. Perfect, thank you. All right, any other questions whatsoever? All right, thank you. Anything else, Mr. Tebow?
Nothing else to speak to if there's no
All right.
questions on capital projects.
All right, thank you. Moving on to department reports, item 7.5, Mr. Tebow. I will start with the different reports. If you have any questions, just please stop me accordingly. Councilor Rudd.
Yeah, I just have one question on the planning. For planning, you went to a Highway 3 meeting, and I just wonder if there's any news you can share.
Mr. Egan? Sure.
So where we stand today is that we have the proposed routing of Highway 3 that's come from the consultants. Now they're in a consultation process to gain feedback, I guess, from all the communities and stakeholders that are involved in the project before they would move to an official selection of the routing.
So we're not even to that point yet. No asphalt plant.
No, they still have to pin down the route, and so there'll be issues that typically arise in that kind of a planning process.
Is there much impact on the route selection for Tabor?
Right now, the proposed route by the consultant does not go through Tabor. It goes to the south of Tabor a fair degree. And so we will talk to you about what kind of an impact they may have and whether that's a positive or a negative impact. And then we can communicate that back to the
before we leap to
stakeholders.
conclusions.
Yes,
exactly.
That's right. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Councilor Sorensen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and since you were up at the podium, if it's okay.
Sure.
I'm interested with meeting with Travel Alberta and representing the Southern Corridor, and so I was wondering if you have any news to share, or is it a top secret right now?
I don't have any particular news to share at this particular moment in time.
All right, thank you. Councilor Beckering.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, in regards to Councilor Rudd's question, this is about the relocation of the Highway 3, correct? Not the twinning of Highway 3.
So this is part of the master plan. It's just the relocation is how they would extend the twinning. Let me come at this differently. The twinning project is from the west end, currently is from the east end of Tabor to the east. This particular work that they're planning on now is rerouting so it's associated with and it's part of, but it's a separate entity.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, if I may follow
Absolutely, you
up. This is to do with a project that was instigated by the government about 7 or 8 years ago. Stantec did it, I believe. And it was to reroute Highway 3 around Tabor. And I said at the time, I asked the question at the time, what the how long it would be before we do that? And the guy said, well, sir, how old are you? So I took from that it's going to be a long, long time. So why are we even discussing it?
I guess the implementation of any project is preceded by long-range planning and detailed planning. And so they're in that planning phase now. If we have comments in that regard, we should probably think about figuring out what those comments are and then providing that impact to the groups that are assessing the routing and the impacts of each route. It may never happen, but I would suggest that they're moving down that path.
All right, thank you. So any other questions related to planning and community service report? Started off Councilor Rudd's request, but okay, let's get that covered. Finance Department report. Administrative Service report. CAO report. Engineering and Public Works reports. Public Works Treatment Facilities report. Fire Department reports. HR Department report. Seeing no questions arising, all right, let's get that covered. I'm moving on to Mayor and Councilor, sorry. Oh, all right, Councilor Sorensen.
For some reason, my order is different than yours.
Okay.
I just have a question in regards for engineering and public works in the vehicle charging program. the stations, they're being installed. How is the progress? And
So in my understanding, they should be done here in a couple months. They were just waiting for some parts, but they're progressing quite well. The contractor's just waiting for those parts to arrive, or actually stations to arrive. They should be installed as soon as they get here.
and we don't foresee any problems with the capacity of electricity that we need to charge these stations. No.
So before we put the stations in, that assessment was done to ensure that we had capacity.
All right, that's going to be covered. All right, perfect, thank you. Once again, moving on to mayor and council reports. Councilor Firth, can I get you to start us off, please?
Certainly. So I attended all the meetings I was required to attend, including a Chamber of Commerce meeting and a Cornfest wrap-up meeting. At that Cornfest wrap-up meeting, it was specifically mentioned that Mr. John Browning and his crew and our electrician, Ryan Gilbertson, were excellent to work with, and they wanted me to pass that on to the town. So thanks to those guys for being such a big help with Cornfest. I also attended an Arts and Heritage meeting. Winterfest is coming up on November 18th, and Christmas Market is happening also on December 3rd. And I also attended the Communities in Bloom Awards Night, which was great, and the Pheasant Festival banquet just last week. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Councilor Beckering. All right, thank you. Councilor McLean.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I also attended all the meetings that were required of me, and I also attended a virtual meeting with the Minister of Health and the MLA and our MLA Hunter, Grant Hunter, and I participated in the seniors lunch that we served for and made food for, and that was a good event to attend to, and it was fun. And just from the library board, they do have a jingle sale coming up November 18th and 19th at the community center that they just wanted me to inform everybody of. And that's it.
All right, thank you. Councilor Sorensen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, we attend several of the same boards and committees, so I think everything's kind of been shared. So that's, I've attended all the necessary meetings.
All right, thank you. Councilor Rudd.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I had fulfilled my responsibility as far as meetings, attending to meetings and such. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And for myself, I attended a variety of meetings as per normal. Did some interviews as well with the media. Attended the National Truth Reconciliation Day at the Tabor Library. Also, the Dairy Queen 5-year celebration event at the Dairy Queen. The Christian High School grand opening. And also attended the Parkside dinner serving. And thanks so much for Councilor Sorensen and Councilor McLean for assisting, and or Mr. Tebow and Mr. Egan. That helped as well. A lot of fun there, and they were very well appreciative of the whole event there. I also attended the CIB Awards night. That was a lot of fun, and I think that's the biggest event I've attended for CIB Awards evening. So 3 years since that actually occurred, so I guess that's got a lot to do with that, but that went over very well. I also attended the Town of Tabor and MD of Tabor collaborative event related to the Community Standards Unit, and hats off to the Tabor Police Service for making that happen. And many great things coming ahead with that particular collaboration event. And that would be my report. Any other questions related to anybody's reports? All right, seeing none. We have no delegations. I missed the standing item council requests. On to standing item council requests. Anything whatsoever? None whatsoever. All right. Moving on, there are no delegations. Mr. Tebow, any meeting inquiries?
There are none.
All right, with that, I would ask for 30-minute recess for the meal break and to move into closed session upon our return. Councilor Rudd.
I'll give you that motion, Mr. Mayor, that we adjourn.
Thank you. Motion on the table. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. All right, for Councilor Sorensen, item 10.2, that would be yours.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion, please, that council approves an infrastructure renewal fee of $7 per month, no, $6 per month for residential accounts, and $750 per month for non-residential accounts.
All right, motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you.
There is that item 2 also that I
That's right.
could make a motion. That council directs administration to prepare a borrowing bylaw for a 3 million debenture to fund the secondary clarifier rehab project.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Motion to close the meeting. Councilor McLean, you're pretty close. I think it's a tie, but. Councilor McLean, motion on the table. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Just need you for 5 minutes. Oh, yes, yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Now.